Come on, you can do this. Loose skin could be considered to be your battle scars. Jeez, I looked fantastic. I was able to look in the mirror and said, holy that's her. That's the woman that I knew was always inside me. No way. I am never going back there. And that is how the Keogh method all started. Welcome to this week's podcast. Thank you, as always, for joining me. I love having you here. I'm going to do something this week that I've done before, and I will always do it. I'll continue doing it in the future. I am going to answer some of the questions that you guys ask me on a very regular basis. I will call out your names, but if I don't mention you, it will only be because the same question has been asked by quite a lot of people. And I'm sorry, but I promise you I'll mention you next time. I'm Mel Harris. This is the Keep It Off podcast. So let's get straight into it. First question I'm going to deal with today is, how often should I weigh myself now that I'm not losing? I can't tell you how many people ask me this question. I have actually covered this quite briefly in a previous episode, but I'm going to go into this a bit deeper now. The quick and simple answer is, it depends. We are all different, so it really, really does depend. There was actually a very small study done. I think it was around about 70 people. I'm pretty sure it was just 70 people that they tracked. And it was quite interesting because what they found was those people that weighed themselves 1, 3 or more days a week were those people that actually were keeping their weight off. Those people that weighed themselves less often, maybe once a week, maybe every other week, they were people that tended to put weight back on. I think there is a sweet spot. 3 to 4 days a week would be something to aim for. What I will say to you, please, is don't weigh yourself every single day. There's no benefit to that. Our weight goes up and down depending on what we had the night before, our hormone levels, you know the things. There are so many things that affect our weight. I know for a fact that I've tried it where I've weighed myself in the morning. I've gone off, I've done a few bits, maybe I've fed the dog or something, gone back, weighed myself again, got a completely different reading. So don't weigh yourself every day. You're just going to probably set yourself up for a bit of disappointment or, well, unless they go down, of course, in which case you'll be elated, but it won't be a real figure. So I don't want you to do that. The easiest way of saying this is the scales become a bit of a fixation when you've lost a lot of weight. I am no different. I weigh myself regularly. I stay within the sweet spot. I also know when I'm avoiding the scales. Now, I might not talk about it to anyone. I might not say anything, but if I'm doing something that I don't normally do within my usual eating regime, I'm likely to avoid the scales for a while. So, for example, I have a pizza. I have a takeaway pizza for dinner. That's not something I often do. It's not something I regularly do. And I avoid the scales for a few days because I knew I did wrong. I don't need the scales to be there underneath my feet yelling at me, "You stupid cow, you knew you shouldn't have had that bloody pizza." So yeah, I avoid the scales. But what we need to understand, what you guys all need to understand, is what I've learned to understand. Why are you weighing yourself too much? Why are you weighing yourself too little? What's going on in that head of yours? The truth is, if you weigh yourself at a normal rate, you are going to pick up on a 3-pound weight gain that is absolutely fixable, rather than weighing yourself in 2 or 3 weeks' time and finding you put on a stone, which is much harder to address. If you are waiting before you get on the scales until your jeans are too tight, you've probably gone past that level of it's going to be an easy fix. By the time your jeans are too late, you've likely gained a good stone. So be sensible about when you weigh yourself, how you weigh yourself. I always weigh myself first thing in the morning. As soon as I get up, I go in, I go to the loo, get on the scales. That's when I weigh myself. You find your time. It is better to weigh yourself in the morning. There is studies to show that we are always that little bit lighter in the morning, so you might as well. But yeah, that's my take on when you should weigh yourself and how you should weigh yourself. Now, let's go on to another question that is asked quite a lot. This is again something that I have dealt with on previous podcasts, and it is something that we deal with a lot. at the Keogh method, particularly on our new Soothed program, which goes into this issue very, very deeply. But basically, people always reach out and say to me, I'm slipping back into old habits. Is it starting again? Again, not an easy answer. It depends. Everybody is so different. What we have to be really honest about is when we say we're slipping into old habits, are we beating up ourselves for something that's not quite accurate, or have bad habits just crept back in? Because that's what they do. They wait in the wings, and as soon as the new habit that you formed that is helping you starts to waver, it gets a little bit itchy, waiting for it to waver completely, and it comes straight back in before you know what's happening. When we set up our new habits, they take a long time for us to feel that they are automated, feel that there's something that we don't have to think about consciously on a regular basis. The old myth of it takes 21 days to build a new habit is absolute rubbish. It takes much longer to build habits. It takes a lot of work. If it's a simple habit built into your routine, then okay, it might take a couple of months. If it's a much, much bigger habit that you want to build into your routine, that is going to take anything up to 6 months, 8 months. It depends on how much effort you have to put in to get that habit to become automated, for your brain to learn the new lesson it needs to form that and turn it into a habit. So it really, really does depend. And what I would say here is reach out, first of all. Let us have more details, because I haven't got enough details here to be able to give you a specific answer. Think about what your new habit was that you formed. Think about what it is about that habit that is starting to slip. New habit might be that you've decided to drink lots of water during the day, and you have been drinking water on a regular basis, and you know you're meeting your targets because at the end of the day your water bottle with all the little lines on it that tell you how much you've drunk has been empty. Now it might only be 3/4 empty, or a quarter full, depending if you're a full or empty kind of person. Or it might actually only empty by a quarter and you've still got quite a lot of it left. Ask yourself, I noticed on one day that I hadn't drunk enough water. What did I tell myself about that? What language did I use? Was it, oh, bugger it, I've ruined it, I might as well forget it? Or was it, damn it, my whole week is ruined and I'm not going to be dehydrated and I really need to get back to this. I really need to get back to this. I really need to get back to this. And then tomorrow, when you really need to get back to this and you're putting all that pressure on you, guess what? You don't drink as much water. A habit isn't fully broken until you have personally broken its mechanism for a couple of days on a trot. On the first day, when you feel that you're not quite doing what you need to do, it's just you didn't drink enough water that day. You didn't go for a run that day. You didn't walk the dog round the block that day. That's all it is. It's nothing more than that. If on day 2 you do the same thing again, you are going to start to run into trouble, because the chances are on day 3 you will also do the same thing again. You won't drink enough water. You won't take the dog for a walk. You won't do a run before work. But once you've done that 3 days on the trot, the likelihood is yes, in answer to your question, you are slipping back into old behaviours, and we can deal with that. I'm not saying that to panic you. You do not need to panic. Everything can be dealt with. I just need more information from you. So either put something in the comments or go onto my website, www.keoghmethod.com, and book a call in with me. Why not? I can then go through it with you step by step and we'll get you back on track. Okay, now then, what's my next question here? This one is not as common as most, but it is something that's asked quite regularly. My weight goes up and down by 3 or 4 pounds on a regular basis. What is going on? I understand why you would want to question that. Don't become obsessed with it, because that's what our bodies do. Our bodies are designed to protect us. And when I say our bodies, I'm primarily talking about our brain. The brain has one job and one job only, and that is to protect us. And it does that by making sure that our entire metabolic system is working effectively and the way it should be working. And therefore, if it feels that it's got some kind of lack of energy or lack of nutrient, it will do whatever it can to fix that issue. It might hold on to fat longer. It might take nutrients from other metabolic systems to make up for the ones it's lacking in. But what that will do is it will affect how much you weigh. That's quite normal. What you don't have to look at is your diet. Are you doing everything wrong? Am I eating too much? Am I eating too many calories? What you would need to look at is, where am I going wrong? Have I not got enough nutrients in my body? Am I not drinking enough water? Am I not eating enough protein? Am I working out too much? This is something that I've dealt with in a whole other episode. There are many factors that can affect why your weight will fluctuate by 3 or 4 pounds. It is normal. That is what our bodies do. And again, we do a very quick dive on keomethod.com. But for now, what I want to say is, don't look at the number on the scales. Look at the direction you're going in. If you are headed in the right direction, if you feel that you are doing all the right things, not all the things that people tell you you've got to do, but all the right things that have been working for you up till now, carry on doing it. There is a caveat to this. First of all, when you think about the weight you want to be, you put a number to it, and some people will say, well, 2 pounds below or 2 pounds over, whatever that number is. The problem with that is, if you are not 2 pounds under, you failed. If you are 2 pounds over, you failed. And what it does, by focusing on the number of the scales, it will set a rolling pattern of negativity that you will send to yourself. And that negativity, that mindset, will eventually lead you to making decisions that you wouldn't normally make. So be careful with that. I know for a fact that I used to really focus on the number of the scales. I had a specific weight that I wanted to get down to, and I wasn't prepared to stop until I was at that level. And I was beating myself up on a regular basis because I felt like whatever I did, I couldn't get to that number. So forget the number on the scales. It will only lead to disappointment. It will only lead to negativity. Think about what you're doing as a whole and take into account how far you've come. Now, I don't just mean give yourself a pat on the back. That's not what I mean by this. What I mean is, when you were obese, you needed a certain number of nutrients in order to carry that huge body around with you, and in order for that huge body to get all its organs to working properly. As you slowly or quickly, as the case might be, lost your weight, you need a different level of nutrients. You need a different amount of protein. You need more water. It's water that keeps everything moving. A bit like when you put petrol in a car or diesel in a car. It's those things, the oil in the car, that actually keeps everything running smoothly. And it's the same thing here. If you are still doing today what you did 4 or 5 months ago, you are possibly not serving your body very well. And so we need to find out for you, where are you now at your journey and what is right for you now? Do you need to make any adjustments? It won't necessarily stop the fluctuation, because that is a normal process, but it will stop it temporarily. It will get to its new level before it starts fluctuating again, or even plateauing, which is, again, a normal process. So I hope that's helped. I hope that's made sense. Let's have a look and see what else we're being asked. Why do I have to eat so much less than everyone else? Now, that's not a question about why you have to eat less than everybody else. That is a call for help. You have started to resent your new regime in the same way that I did when I was obese. I hated the fact that I was obese, but I hated even more all those people that weren't obese? Why can they eat whatever they want and I can't? It's not fair. I'm a good person. I shouldn't have to suffer like this. You recognise that kind of mindset? I have said this over and over again, and I will continue to say it. When you've lost a load of weight, it is only the beginning of a journey. A new journey, yes, but it is only the beginning. And the difference between the journey of losing weight and the journey you start out on when you have lost your weight is that this one has no end destination. The new journey that we are on once we've lost our weight is for life. We have to work hard at keeping our weight off for life. And that is why I talk so much about habit forming and building new habits, because if we can make our daily regime as automated as possible, our journey will be a lot easier. If we start resenting the fact that now on this new journey, we have to still eat less than other people, we can't eat the same way as other people, you are 100% setting yourself up for a massive decline. We can help you stop thinking like that. You have to change the messages you send your brain. There is no point whatsoever feeling bad about the fact that you can't eat as much as the person sitting next to you at the table. Rejoice in it. When somebody turns to you and says, "Is that all you're having?" You say, "Yeah, that's all I need. I'm happy with that, thanks. I'm full." Enjoy it and make everybody else realize that you don't have a problem with this, so they don't need to have a problem with it. Don't let other people put pressure on you, and certainly don't put pressure on yourself. Turn your thoughts around from negativity to absolute celebration of every new thing that you've placed into your life. Come on, you can do this. Right, now then, I love this question. My family say I am obsessive because I'm still watching what I eat. Am I? Possibly. In a way, I hope so. That's not the big issue here. When we start out on our weight loss journey, one of the things that everybody says to me, and I was no different, is I can't wait till I've lost weight because I won't be thinking about food all the time. The absolute opposite is true. We now have to think about food far more than we ever did. There's a different way of thinking about food though. When we were at our biggest, when we thought about food, it was like, oh, tiramisu, can't wait. I love tiramisu. Or, oh, I'm going to go into the shops, I'm going to get some crisps, I'm going to try that new flavour that they're advertising on the telly. That was a different kind of thinking about food, but it was a constant thing of thinking about food always cropping up in our minds. What am I going to have? Oh, I can have this. Now, when we think about food, it's on a practical level. I need to go shopping. What am I going to have to eat this week? Let me plan out what I'm going to have every day this week. Let me write a menu plan. Let me write a shopping list. Let me go out and shop according to what I need this week. Now, I'm going to have this for breakfast, this for lunch, this for dinner. Do I need to prepare my lunch for taking it into work? Yeah, probably. Okay, I'll do that the night before. Now we are thinking about food in a whole different way. We are planning. We are being practical. It's necessary. There is such an old adage that says, fail to prepare, prepare to fail. It couldn't be true any more than it is at this particular point. We have to prepare. If we don't, we fail. Classic example of this is I'm recording this. It's gone to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I haven't yet had time to have my lunch. However, I have got food in my bag. So I know I'm not now going to have to wait till dinner when I'm really, really hungry before I eat again. Because if I'm that hungry when I sit down for my next meal, the chances are I will overeat. I will choose things that I wouldn't normally choose. I'm prepared. I'm prepared for whatever my day throws at me. I didn't know I wouldn't have time for lunch. It just worked out that way. Preparation is really important. So are you becoming obsessive? Maybe, but hopefully in a different way. There is something I'm going to add to this. This is a bit harder to take. Our nearest and dearest have only ever got our best intentions in their heads. They want what's best for us, our family and our closest friends. The problem that can come from that is they make their judgments, their observations based on who they are, not necessarily based on who you are, where you are on your journey, what's important to you. And if they see you doing things that they would never consider doing, they read that as, well, that's not right. Well, it might not be right for them, but it is right for you. Tell them so. Let them know, I'm not being obsessive. This is what I have to do, and I'm happy with that. And there are another group of people within our inner circles who can be more destructive. They are the people who actually have their own agenda. Look around you. Who is chatting to you with love and who is chatting to you with an ulterior motive? Other people might be jealous and they might encourage you to, oh, go on, just have one. You'll love it. It's really nice. They might look at you and say, oh, look at you. Oh, you've lost too much weight. You are going to stop now, aren't you? Because honestly, you're looking really gaunt. Oh, it's so aging. Why are they saying these things to you? Are they trying to hurt you? If they are they really friends? Or are they trying to safeguard their own positioning within your life? It's a hard one, that. The only answer is simple. How do you feel? Are you happy with how you look? Are you prepared to put up with some extra loose skin so that you can get into a size 12 or a size 14, whatever it is you want to get down to? If you are, as long as you are happy, that is all that matters. If you are obsessing, and I really hate that word, change it. Change it to, no, I'm not. I'm doing what I have to do and I'm preparing. That will really help you. It will help you to deal with those people that are telling you these negative things. Those that really genuinely love you and support you, they will understand and they'll take it on board. Those people that preferred you when you were fatter because you made them look good, yeah, just tell them where to get lost. Cool. Right. Hopefully I've dealt with all of that for you. Again, if there's anything else you want to ask me, you just let me know. This is such a sweet question. Why have people stopped complimenting me? The easy answer would be to say, well, they've just got used to you. You know, I mean, how many times can you say to someone, oh, you look great, before you think, oh, I'm not going to say it again, for God's sake. I've told her 100 times, him 100 times. But if you're still feeling that, if it bothers you that people have stopped with all the pats on the backs and the congratulations, what we need to talk about is why. Because ultimately, I would love you to get in a position where you give yourself your own praise. You don't need to look outside of yourself to know how well you've done, to see how far you've come. And if you do, and I know I did for many, many years, I really needed it to come from outside of myself because it felt like it was only that praise that came from somebody else that was valid. It validated me. If I said it to myself, it just felt like a waste of a thought. It just didn't sink in. And one of the things that changed that for me, and this is very interesting. Well, it was for me anyway, so I hope you find it interesting. There was one day many years ago when I was chatting to a friend in a car and she was trying to help me with my self-loathing and the fact that I hated myself so much. And the point we were talking about was, as far as I was concerned, I was fat and ugly and nobody could tell me otherwise. You know, people could say, oh, no, you've got a really pretty face. Well, the fact was I could not look in a mirror and see a pretty face. And at that point in the conversation, I caught myself looking at myself in the rearview mirror. That's the one. And I looked at it and I went, okay, I give in. I'm just not my cup of tea. And the minute I heard myself say that out loud, it had an impact on me. Because what I was really saying was, okay, I'm not everybody. Other people may think that I've got a pretty face. Who am I to argue with that? I can't disrespect them by telling they're talking rubbish. But I'm not my cup of tea. There were two acknowledgements there, two things that happened. Number one, I was giving respect to other people that they deserved, and I was acknowledging that full-hearted. The other thing was I said it out loud. And this is something that I talk about an awful lot. You keep hearing me say that, I know, but it's true. When we talk to ourselves inside our head, it doesn't land in the same way as when we speak aloud. I have said to so many of my clients, I want you to have an out loud conversation with yourself. And they all feel really stupid and really silly. And they go, everybody's going to think I'm mad. I don't care what other people think. This is a fact. This is so well researched. When we speak aloud, our brain recognizes that sound and that information as coming from outside sources. It doesn't dismiss it as just self-talk. And when our brains do that, it registers much more clearly and it lands better. And the brain uses that information as a new coping mechanism, as a new teaching method, as a new piece of information that it needs to apply to us when it's trying to keep us safe. So no, I'm not going mad. I do talk to myself out loud on a regular basis. I'm not asking you to look in a mirror and do it, or I don't know, stand up in the middle of the pub and start talking to yourself. I'm just saying that talk to yourself when you're giving yourself particularly good information. When you're giving yourself your own praise, let your brain hear it, because eventually that brain will make it part of who you are. You say it often enough. There's nothing wrong with looking in a mirror and saying, shit, I look good today, especially when you're really thinking it. What's wrong with that? Wow, I look good in this dress. Oh my God, not only does this suit jacket do up, I need to get a smaller suit. What's wrong with acknowledging those things, giving ourselves our praise? Let our brains learn that they don't need to protect us from feeling that we're inadequate and that our thoughts and processes don't matter. We don't need praise from anybody else. Find a way of praising and rewarding yourself. By the way, I don't mean by food. Well, not necessarily anyway. Okay, so I've got a couple more questions that I would like to go through today. And this is something that is a problem for a lot of people. How do you handle going out for dinner and social occasions? Again, it does depend on who you're going out with, what the social situation is, and how much control you've got over it. Whenever I go to dinner at friends' houses, I make sure, and because they are my friends, they understand that they know wholeheartedly, absolutely 100%, that I cannot eat a lot of food. I don't want to eat a lot of food. Don't do desserts. They know that if they come out for dinner at a restaurant, or if I go round there for dinner, I don't do desserts. Now, I will never say to anybody, make sure you make me this. I want grilled chicken and a salad, and I don't care what everybody else. I don't want people cooking especially for me. But the fact they know that I don't eat a lot, I can't eat a lot, means that whatever they have made for dinner, even if it's in a rich sauce or it's some kind of food that I might not normally eat, they are not going to pile it on my plate and expect me to get through it and be offended when I leave some. So prepare your hosts. Let them know that you can only eat a small amount of food and that you only want to. In exactly the same way as you would say to somebody, I'm allergic to cheese, I can't eat anything with cheese. Now, you wouldn't think twice about telling your host that, because they need to know. So why not say to them, please don't be offended if I leave food on my plate, or better still, when I say to you, I only want a small amount, please just give me a small amount. And I'm quite happy to guide you on that. I'm quite happy when you're dishing up to say, no, that's enough. It's easy. If you're out in a restaurant, the same rule applies. Obviously, you don't need to pre-warn the restaurant. You just leave on your plate what you don't want to leave. Now, that is difficult. I am asking you to do one of the most difficult things that we ever have to face, and that is leaving food on our plate. I can't do it now because I am pressed for time and this is a relatively short podcast, but I will do a deep dive on this, and it is something that I really deal with at the Keough method. So honestly, even if you don't need anything else from the Keough method, go and have a look at what we teach when it comes to leaving food on the plate, particularly when it's food we love. We actually teach you how to plate up your food so that you're not faced with that. So when you're in a restaurant, if that restaurant is not going to give you a starter size portion or a kid size portion, which I often ask for. And most restaurants are quite happy to do that for me. You know, if I say, look, I want it as a main meal, but I just want the starter size, they're quite happy to do that. Less happy to give me a kid's menu, but it's really tough because often I go out for a meal, the food is absolutely delicious. And there's still in the back of my mind, I am paying for something that I know I'm not going to able to eat all of, and it's going to waste. And you know, it's a tough one. It really is. But there are definitely ways around that. The other day I was in a cafe having lunch with a friend of mine, and I ordered a jacket potato with spinach and halloumi, and it was actually a particularly good jacket potato, you know, crispy on the outside, really fluffy on the inside. And I was happy with my choices of protein with halloumi and my spinach for fibre. So I was happy with that. But I also knew I didn't have long to eat it because I was in a hurry and I had to go off for a dress fitting. And the dress fitting was actually another bonus because potato does bloat people out, as we all know. There are certain things that are automatic bloaters, potatoes and bread being two of them. So the last thing I wanted was to turn up at a dress fitting with a bloated stomach, especially as this is a dress that I'm going to be wearing for a wedding and it's very, very fitted. So that was in the back of my mind, plus my time limitations. So I had a few mouthfuls, and the moment that my stomach felt a little bit full, I thought, right, okay, that's fine. I've had enough. It will get me through until I'm next eating. But what I did was I asked for a takeaway box. Now, I never normally do that. I am not someone who eats leftovers. I just never do it, you know, Chinese or pizza. If there's anything left over, I have to say it goes in the bin. I know it's wasted, but I'd rather do that than eat it. But this jacket potato really was nice. So I thought I'll take it home and I'll have it when I get back from the dress fitting. That was a way of dealing with uneaten food. By the time I did get back to that jacket potato and it was cold and it just didn't look appealing, I didn't go back and eat it. Instead, I made my dinner that night and was very happy with the choices I made. So there are ways of leaving food, not always easy. Social situations are those times when you have to bite the bullet and be honest, in the same way as people that don't drink. Now, I wouldn't ask an alcoholic who has gone to a party and been offered a drink and say, no, I'm an alcoholic, I can't have that. But I would say to that person, just say, no, thanks, I'm off the alcohol for a week, so I'll just have a soft drink. They're not even going to question you. I think that's pretty much what I can say about how you deal with social situations and going out to restaurants. I think I've dealt with that in detail, in fact. On to the next, without risking repeating myself. Now, I have kind of spoken about this earlier on. Why are people sabotaging me still after all this time? We did speak about it earlier. Unfortunately, there are people in our lives who do not have our best interests at heart. They have their own best interests at heart. I'm not going to say who this was, but many, many years ago, I'd had dinner, I didn't want a dessert, and the person who was hosting was serving up Haagen-Dazs Baileys flavoured ice cream. Two of my weaknesses, two of my triggers, ice cream and Baileys. And in order to get me to say yes, she literally waved this bloody ice cream under my nose. Go on. You know you want to. Go on, have some. And it wasn't, and I mean, I couldn't tell you how many times I said, no, thank you, I'm fine. No, I don't want it. It wasn't until somebody else said, for crying out loud, leave her alone. She said no, that person stopped. Now, it's pretty obvious from that example that particular person did not have my best interests at heart. They exist everywhere. They can even be in amongst your family and your closest circles. It's where you have to stay strong. It's where you have to stay proud and strong. The prouder you are of what you've achieved and how you've learned to say no and to stick to your guns, the easier it will be for you to tell them to bog off. So there you go. As I say, I'm not going to keep repeating myself, but we did deal with it earlier. So that, I hope, is going to help you. Another question that comes up a lot, even in my own head. What do I do about the bloody loose skin? Loose skin is inevitable when you lose a huge amount of weight once you're over the age of 30, 35. When we are younger, our skin has elasticity in it. And as we get older, we lose that elasticity. And so instead of shrinking back like an elastic band would do, it doesn't. And it becomes loose. It becomes loose skin, and it's not nice. And depending on how we view our loose skin depends on how we react to it and how it affects us going forward. Loose skin could be considered to be your battle scars, something you're proud of. You know what? It is what it is. I fought long and hard to have this loose skin. If you've got a problem with it, fine. Your problem, not mine. But in the real world, that's not easy. In fact, most of the times it's impossible. Yes, you can have surgery to remove loose skin. I'm not sure, and I will find out because I'm not sure what the situation is on the National Health yet as to whether or not they will cover loose skin removal unless it's causing other serious health issues. They could be blisters or something like that. I will look into that though and find out for you. But it is very much available on the private sector. And oh my goodness, is it expensive? Yeah. And for people that have already laid out for weight loss surgery, it's a real double hit if you want to go the surgical route. Do not listen to any apps. Do not buy any so-called miracle ways of getting rid of your loose skin. There is no such thing. It is only removable by surgery. There are ways of covering it. How you dress, a great way to cover up loose skin. That doesn't mean going back to when you were at your largest and you used to wear big baggy clothes, because actually that will just make it look worse in the same way as it did when you were large. It means wearing clothes that fit you properly, that support your loose skin. That will be better for you than wearing the big smocks, etc. If you are thinking about surgery, I can tell you from experience, it's a very big operation. When I had my surgery, I had skin removed from my torso, skin removed from my arms, big bat wings, skin removed from my chin, and skin removed from my inner thighs. That was a lot of procedures, and I couldn't have it all done in one go. So I started off with having my stomach done and my arms done. I made a very big mistake. It's one of my biggest regrets on my entire journey. I lost all my weight, I was feeling great, but I was having a meltdown over the skin, the stomach that was still sitting on my thighs every time I sat down. I would spend most of my time standing up because I looked thinner standing up. Every time I sat down, all I could see was loose skin everywhere. I had surgery quite early on in my journey. It was not an easy operation to recover from. It really is difficult. It's very, very painful. You have to follow the guidelines, and it takes a long time to recover, and you will have scars. Scars on our torso tend to heal more beautifully than scars elsewhere. Scars on my arms are quite severe. They're certainly very noticeable. Then all the bandages came off. Geez, I looked fantastic. I was able to look in the mirror and said, holy shit, that's her. That's her. That's the woman that I knew was always inside me. That's the woman that was hidden by all that fat. Wow, I finally met her. I cannot tell you how amazing how absolutely amazing that was. I woke up from that operation. They had taken 8.5 kilos of loose skin from just around my middle, front and back. 8.5 kilos. I woke up from that 8.5 kilos lighter. I took off my bandages and I looked awesome. So why, oh why, is it my biggest regret? Because as I say, I did that quite early on in my journey. It was later in my journey. It was after the honeymoon period, when the 2 and 3 year mark crept in, that I was faced with the challenges of real life. And back then, I didn't have the tools and the knowledge that I now have thanks to Keto. And I wasn't equipped to handle it. and my old behaviour patterns just crept right back in without knocking on the door, and I'd put on 3 stone. Now, anybody that's followed me and has been on the website or has seen me on social media will know that 3 stone gain was my catalyst for no fucking way. I am never going back there. And that is how the keto method all started. I, from that moment, focused on research and learning, and I qualified in health and nutrition, and I soaked up every single piece of information I could about the gut and the metabolism and how the body works. I was really obsessed. I was not going back there, and in order for me to make sure it didn't happen again, I needed to know why it happened in the first place, and I needed to know all the information I could so that I could help other people not go down that same path, because I did. And then I applied the knowledge that I discovered. I applied the systems I developed, and thankfully I lost that 3 stone and continued on to lose more weight. Again, I hear you saying, so why was it your biggest regret? Because now I've got loose skin again. I lost the 3 stone. I lost another 3 stone on top of that. And I'm now lighter than I was when I was 11. I am the lightest I have ever been. I'm sure I came out of my mother's womb heavier than I am today. So I've got more loose skin. And can I afford to go back and have it done again? Absolutely not. More importantly, would I want to put myself through that again? Because I have publicly spoken about scar tissue and how my scar tissue from those operations nearly killed me. I was moments away from death. Lisa Marie Presley, Elvis Presley's daughter, died from the exact same thing. The scar tissue that built up and caused blockages to her bowel. So now I have to just accept and put up with the fact that I've got loose skin. That is what I would like to help you to come to terms with. If you want to have surgery, I'll hold your hand all the way through it. No problem whatsoever. I've been there. I've done that. I know what you're letting yourself in for. You can ask me anything you want to ask. But if, like me, you're not in a position to have surgery, let's find a route round it. Let's find out how you can accept yourself the way you are. Because that's what I've had to do now. This one I can answer very quickly, and that's because we've already dealt with it. I've regained a stone. Have I ruined it? No, you haven't, unless you choose to. Go back to the beginning of this podcast and listen again to forming habits and breaking habits, and you'll realize that you may have gained a stone, but you can find your way back, and we can certainly help you find your way back. No, you haven't ruined it. Finally, am I supposed to feel frightened all the time? And when can I stop worrying about it? I'm really sorry to hear that there are still people out there that feel frightened. In order for me to deal with that, I need to know what you're frightened of. I can only imagine that one of the biggest fears is the fear of regain. And I understand that. I totally understand that. When you have worked so hard to lose the weight in the first place, and then you find out that keeping that weight off is even harder, makes losing it look like a doddle, then of course I can understand why you'd be afraid. I was really terrified. And of course I did put on 3 stones, so I was almost self-perpetuating that fear. The difference is that now there is help out there. You don't have to worry about regain. You don't have to be fearful of it. There are support groups. You've got people like me. You've got the keto method. There are so many places now that you can go to that can help you on your journey, that can walk with you side by side so that you're not alone, so that you don't feel that you're drowning in a sea of water and you don't know where to turn. Because whether you're taking GLP-1s, whether you're taking the new pill that we've spoken about, or whether you had surgery, there comes a point where you need help. We all do. There's no shame in that. That doesn't mean you're a failure. And I'll be very honest with you. Those people that reach out to me for help, in my opinion, they're the bravest of the lot. They are the bravest of the lot, and they get the most joy out of the rest of their journey. I'm Mel Harris. This has been the Keto Podcast. Keep it off with Mel, and I'll see you next time.